So the Destiny 2 extended beta just ended at the time of this recording, and the opinions were pretty mixed. Personally, I saw that the general consensus felt pretty negative, and although I didn't feel that way, everyone has their own opinion. I personally really enjoyed it, but I'm not just going to service Bungie and say the game's perfect, because that would be both impractical and impossible, and I feel like I haven't seen enough to make that definitive of a judgment. But at the same time, I feel like people are being a little too hard on it, so I wanted to put my opinion out there, because I feel like I might be able to bring some things to the table, or at least have a more neutral take on the past week. Let's start with the elephant in the room. How much content we actually received in this beta test. We got 1 story mission, 1 strike, and 2 Crucible game types with only a couple of maps in between the two. No, this isn't a lot of content. Like, at all. And I've personally gone through it a lot of times since the pre-order beta started on Xbox on a Wednesday. I think Bungie made a mistake calling this a beta, because yes, it is close to a beta test by definition, but it's closer to a demo, if anything, and even then that would imply that it's in its final build, which it isn't. The Destiny 2 beta falls somewhere in the middle of that. It's more of a stress test than anything. It gave us a little bit of content to fiddle with, but the general purpose of the beta, as said by Bungie, is stress testing the server capabilities. That's why the social space was only online for an hour, and the added 2 days were meant to emphasize. They only wanted to see what load they can handle at one time, while having the benefit of us bug testing anything to do with gameplay, as it's easier to do that with the many members of the community rather than just the company and a select few. Aside from that debacle, people said it looked and felt too much like Destiny 1, which, yeah, of course it does. It's a sequel. You can definitely tell, however, when you look around, that Bungie's sole focus was on the next generation of consoles this time around. It felt mostly the same, but definitely more refined. You can really tell each class has its own purpose now other than just the supers being the defining characteristics. It gives you the ability to play off your fire team in more intricate ways, like placing a Titan barricade on top of a Warlock's Rift, for example. The one place where I agree it feels too much the same are the Fist of Havoc Titan and everything in the Hunter. It really feels like Bungie tried to reinvent and really expand on the subclasses, and while the Gunslinger and Arc Strider definitely feel more fleshed out, they just didn't feel like the reimaginings I was expecting them to be. Another point of controversy in the subclasses was the Titan Sentinel subclass. The perk tree Bungie designed gives us the second option for our super use. We can use the Cap-esque shield, or we can hold down the super buttons and use good old Ward of Dawn. Lots of people had issues with this, saying it's overpowered and that it's not fair to the other classes as the Titan essentially has 2 supers in one subclass. And to that I say, well, you're half right. I personally don't think it's overpowered per se, but it is unfair to the other subclasses and will be huge leverage to pick up a Titan when the full game launches. I don't think it's broken though, because it makes sense within the subclass. Alright, hear me out. The Titan's class ability is the Barricade, right? Well, since you can no longer have Blessings or Weapons of Light, only Armor of Light on Ward of Dawn, it's essentially just a semi-spherical barricade. If that was just an ability, I could see it creating an overpowered subclass, but the key here is popping the bubble consumes your super, meaning no shield afterwards. If they were to nerf it, I could only see them doing close to what they've done with charging the Warlock Void Grenade, but with the Barricade and have it turn into a bubble that lasts 10 to 15 seconds at the cost of some super energy. It does make me wonder, however, why they didn't add Fireborn to the Dawnblade tree. That really doesn't make sense to me, as it would work as well as it does with the Titan, making the field more leveled between the two. But that would also leave the Hunters further back than I already feel they are development-wise. Something else I heard a lot of was that grenades felt weak now, almost useless, as did some of the guns. Now the grenades, I think, some yes, some no. I thought the Solar and Firebolt grenades for Warlock felt weaker, and the Titan grenades felt mostly the exact same, except now with the Pulse grenade it pulses a lot more often now than it did in Destiny 1. The Hunter grenades were actually useful in my opinion, other than the Trip Mine, which just felt the same as well. I can definitely see this as being more of an opinion thing, but regardless of reasoning, Bungie has come out in their weekly update and said that they've rebalanced the grenades as well as retuning the amount of damage you can do in PvE. Now I thought the damage felt fine in PvE. As a matter of fact, I felt that there was a pretty wide range of damage possibilities, opening the door to a lot of mid-tier builds. I could, however, see this being a problem, since that means that some weapons would be just utter garbage, and others would be godly, something Bungie was trying to avoid in Destiny 1 with the Galahorn. Good examples of this right now, excluding exotics, are, in my eyes, for the Warlock, the better Devil's Hand Cannon, the Nurgle Pulse Rifle, and the main ingredient Fusion Rifle. If you have these weapons equipped, there's really no point in using anything else. This could be due to the low variation in weapons in the beta, but that's just what I felt on what I saw. Another thing Bungie has changed that I'm definitely happy about is charge rates on abilities. Everyone across the board said it was too slow, and Bungie listened, stating that this has been retouched in the current build of the game, as well as ammo drops, and thank God for that. That's one big gripe I had with the beta, is if I used certain weapons, I felt like I would consistently run out of ammo by the end of the strike, so I'm glad to hear that that won't be happening in the full release. On the topic of the strike, I thought the strike was a lot of fun.
It didn't feel very different outside of the base gameplay, but the planet's gorgeous, and you can really feel the scale of it this time around.
But either way it goes, at least it wasn't a string of, "Go here, scan this door." In my humble opinion, I felt like Bungie actually put a lot of thought into the strike, and hopefully the others as well. But then I got to the boss. Protheon was pretty rad, but just like most other strike bosses, he's a bullet sponge. What really makes the fight unique and different is the map you fight in. Each layer he takes away, he uses new tactics and spawns different enemies until he's defeated. I really hate that they only used one mechanic in this fight, and sure, you could argue that knocking his head off and the blinding missile are mechanics, but they're easily avoidable in my opinion, and just don't feel as impacting as the floor is lava floor. I thought it was cool that we fought him with less and less space to defend ourselves, but that's all it really felt like to me. The only other real gripe that I can think of is that people thought Failsafe was a bad addition to the story, and to that I'm actually shocked. She may be a little bit over the top snarky, but I thought it was a bit funny, and I want to know more about that character. I honestly gotta say, I'm really looking forward to the story, and really meeting these characters, as we didn't have many in Destiny 1. And if we have some variation in Destiny 2, I welcome it with open arms, as long as they don't tell me why they can't explain anything. So that's where I stand on the Destiny 2 beta. Now, I know so many people with an opinion more valuable than mine have had their videos up since the beta started, but this is my first video, and to be honest, I have little idea what I'm doing, as is evident with how much I rambled here. And as for PvP, the reason I didn't say anything about it is, simply put, I just never had a strong interest in the Crucible. That, and I've played so little in it in Destiny 1, I don't think I could have a fair opinion on it where it is now. But this is where I stand on the PvE side of the sequel, given my time in the first game. I hope this video was at least a little insightful on a different takeaway from the beta, but even if it wasn't, through all my rambling, at least it's another opinion to take into account if you're looking to buy Destiny 2. Whatever the case may be, I look forward to seeing and picking apart the full release with old Guardians and new. Oh, and the farm was beautiful. There was just a serious lack of chickens. The community still makes it fun as hell though.